Welcome to Demystifying the Metaphysical, here to help you find more compassion in your life. Before we find out what our fate line tells us, if you haven't already, check out the video on the signs palm readers look for a general overview on what to look for when looking at the lines on the hands. You can find the video a link on the top right or in the description below. Let me start off by saying, no, you are not doomed. The fate line is actually a very subjective line. It's your opinion on how fulfilled you feel from your career or life's purpose. It says nothing about how wealthy or successful we'll be. But of course, it helps to feel good about where you are in life. And this line will tell you just how satisfied you are with your place in the world. It's rare. But if a person has a full-length fate line, it can start anywhere along the wrist and move up towards the middle finger. It needs to move in the general direction of the middle finger to be considered a fate line, but it doesn't have to end on the Mount of Saturn. That's the area where the middle finger connects to the palm. The line tells us about our sense of security and is highly subjective. It is not present in 30 to 40% of hands. The timing on the line starts from the wrist and moves up towards the finger. Where the fate line intersects with the head line, this is at age about 35. And age 45 is around where the heart line crosses the fate line. Other characteristics the fate line reveals is our purpose and direction in life. It shows important changes in our career or lifestyle, like getting married or moving to another city or country. It shows how productive we feel and our sense of monetary security. A person from a humble background could have a well-defined, clear fate line, while a person of tremendous wealth may not have a fate line at all. For some, having a roof over their heads and being able to provide the basic needs for their family is enough, while others may need more to feel a sense of security. It's all a matter of perception. This line is very responsive to changes in attitude, so oftentimes the line will develop only after the person feels they've succeeded. Before we look at what the starting and ending points of the fate line tells us, for those that are not familiar, here are the official names of the fingers and mounts on the hands. The Mount of Venus represents love, passion, and enthusiasm. The Mount of Luna represents creativity, relationship with the public, and the feminine energy. As for the fingers, the index finger is called Jupiter, middle finger Saturn, ring finger Apollo, and little finger Mercury. If you'd like to learn more about the mounts on your hands, check out the video on the top right. There's actually no typical starting point for the fate line, though it often starts close to the lifeline. The fate line can start anywhere on the palm, down towards the wrist, or higher up towards the middle of the palm. The lower the palm the fate line starts, the more likely the person will know what they want to do from a young age. The higher up on the palm the fate line starts, the longer it'll take the person to know what they want to do with their life. No matter where the line starts, it doesn't mean one will have more or less challenges than the other. It's just a different experience. An example of a fate line starting higher up on the palm is a person who was so deep in their studies growing up that they never really thought about what they want to do. If your fate line starts on the Mount of Venus or anywhere off of the lifeline, it could mean that you've joined the family business or your family had a big influence over your career choice. Usually the person has a more conservative approach to life. If the fate line starts from the center of the wrist, then your career choice was based on your own interests. Even if you're in the family business, it was a decision you made for yourself. If your fate line starts from the Mount of Luna, your career is likely to be in the creative world, or a job where you need great communication skills, or perhaps working with the public. It could also mean that you work in an industry that caters to women, as the Mount of Luna represents feminine energy. If your fate line starts from outer Mars, you'll have the courage and perseverance to hang in there until you succeed. If the fate line doesn't start until the headline, Then the person might not know what they want to do until later in life. Here's an example of a fate line that starts off of the lifeline where the blue arrow is pointing. This is a person whose career decision was heavily influenced by their family, or their family is very supportive of their career choice. Here's an example of a fate line that starts from the center of the palm. This person will likely decide for themselves what they want to do with their life or career. On this hand, the fate line starts from the Mount of Luna. This is a sign of a person who would be interested in a career in the creative field, or one that utilizes the person's interest. It could also mean that the person dislikes a traditional career, as these people are highly independent. A fate line that starts mid-palm could mean the person isn't clear about their purpose in life or isn't feeling financially secure until their early 20s. If the fate line ends on the headline where the orange dot is, this could mean the person has lost their sense of purpose in life. It doesn't necessarily mean that the person stops working. It could mean that they have either taken on a different job or changed the way they look at their career. This could happen to people who work so hard and had such a stressful job that they no longer want to be burdened with responsibility. They just want to live more freely. If the fate line ends where the pink dot is on the heart line, this is the typical place where the fate line stops. The person has likely retired from their career, and if there are no lines after this, they probably haven't picked up any new interests to pursue. If the fate line ends on the Mount of Saturn, the person will likely be heavily involved in their career until the end of their life. Either that, or the person has picked up new interests after retirement, and their hobbies are bringing them a lot of satisfaction and purpose. Here's an example of a hand with the fate line ending at the headline. This could be a sign that at about age 35, the person may no longer feel satisfied with their career as they did in the past. This could be due to anything from losing interest, a change in life circumstance, or the person could be searching for more freedom. And while doing so, they may feel less secure financially. On this hand, the fate line ends on the heart line. This is typically where the fate line ends. This could be a sign of someone who's set in their ways, as they're not likely to develop new interests. But that's not necessarily a bad thing for someone who wants to take it easy and relax. Here's an example of a fate line that runs all the way to the Mount of Saturn. This could be a person who remains young at heart, as they're more likely to continue their career way past the age of retirement. Or they find new and interesting things to do with their life. Notice how this fate line also ends in a fork. This is a sign of a person who has many interests. If the fate line ends with a branch reaching towards the Mount of Jupiter where the dark blue line is, the person is likely to be quite ambitious. They could become their own boss or engage in humanitarian efforts. This person could be a bit of a workaholic. When the line ends on the Mount of Saturn where the light blue line is, not only will the person continue working past the typical retirement age, but also their mature years will be accompanied by a sense of security. And they'll likely have the characteristics of a Saturnian, which is a person who is serious, has wisdom, and a hard worker. If the fate line ends between the Mount of Saturn and Apollo, shown by the pink line, the person will likely follow the traditional path when it comes to their career choice. If the fate line ends with a branch reaching towards Apollo, like the green line, the person will be happiest to choose a career in art, literature, design, music, or anything that interests them. It's rare, but if a branch reaches all the way to the little finger, this person would be best using their voice in their career, like acting, sales, or having a YouTube channel. Here's an example of a hand with a fate line that ends between the Mount of Saturn and the Mount of Apollo, where the blue arrow is pointing. This person will likely take a traditional life path, especially because the fate line also starts off of the lifeline where the red arrow is pointing. Branches towards other mounts have a similar interpretation to where the fate line ends, but branches could leave the fate line much earlier, and these branches don't have to reach all the way to the mount. They just have to be going towards that direction. If you find a branch moving towards the Mount of Jupiter, the pink line, you'll likely find success through your leadership skills. A person with a branch towards Apollo or the ring finger will find success through their creative abilities. And a person with a branch towards the little finger or Mercury will find success through business abilities or communication skills. Are you missing a fate line like this hand? It's more common than you'd think. 30 to 40% of hands don't have a fate line. If you don't have a fate line, check to see if it's absent in one hand or both. If you're missing the fate line on both hands, then the following might be more applicable to you. You might not be a planner, and you prefer to take life as it comes. Your life follows a non-traditional path. You most likely don't like restrictive routines and prefer to create life on your own terms. Or you're self-made. You know that you need to rely on your own efforts to succeed in life. Now, what if you have two fate lines instead of one? It means for the time where two lines are present, you'll have two separate career paths. One could be the money-making job, and the other, your true passion. Check to see which line is deeper than the other. That will be the path that is more important to you. Usually the fate line isn't as deep as the heart, the head, or the lifeline, like the hand on the left, while the fate line on the hand on the right is as deep as the three major lines. This will mean that the person's career or life purpose will be a big contributing factor in their life. How similar or different are the fate lines on each hand? Our non-dominant hand shows us what we were born with, our original blueprint, and the dominant hand shows us our current thoughts and situation. Let's assume the person is right-handed, and therefore the right hand is the current state of mind. Notice how the fate line is more well marked on the right hand, meaning the person has made great efforts in realizing their dreams and ambitions. If it were the other way around, where the non-dominant hand had a more clear and well-marked fate line than the dominant hand, then the person may have wonderful ideas but may not take action. Here's an example of a wavy fate line. The curve is usually very subtle, and it's a sign of changing conditions in the person's career. It is rare to see a flawless fate line, but this one is pretty close. It is deep, clear, even in its depth and clarity, and of good color. Warm brown is the color we're looking for on darker skin. Pink if your skin tone is lighter. A line of good quality means the person will feel like they have what it takes to succeed. They're satisfied with their place in the world, and they feel supported in life. A fate line that shifts multiple times shows changes in direction in the person's career or life purpose. On this hand, you can see that it shifts 3 times. Upward splits off of the fate line is a sign that a person's life is filled with hope and ambition. An overlapping break on the fate line means a new chapter in the person's career or life purpose. The bigger the gap, the bigger the change. If the new fate line is deeper and more clear than the previous line, then the person will find more satisfaction in their new career. If you've enjoyed the video, feel free to share, like, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.